We'll now create responsive adjustments to make this page look good on all device sizes. If we resize our browser window, we can see that each section behaves differently on different device sizes. For example, we have the top hero section where we can see the text and buttons jumping over to the right side in a 2-column grid for large devices and up. So we'll start with this section and create the following changes. We'll scroll up, and in our Jumbotron we'll add a row inside of our container. We do this by creating a div tag with the class row, and we'll close the div tag again. Now we want to create 2 columns. The image will be the content of our first column, and it will have the classes call 12 to make it span the full width initially, and then call LG8 to make it span 8 out of 12 columns for large devices and up. So we'll just indent this line and close the column div tag again. We'll also wrap our lead paragraph and the 2 buttons in another column with the classes call 12 and then call LG4 to make it span 4 out of 12 columns for large devices and up. Let's see this in action. Now we can see that when we reach the breakpoint for large devices, our text and buttons jump over to the right side because this row turns into 2 columns. Okay, the next part we'll fix is this about section. First of all, we see that we have 2 modules with image, text and button, and when we reach a large device size they turn into a 2-column grid similar to our hero element. But we also see something inside each of these modules. We can see that our image becomes into 1 column and the text and button turns into a 2nd column, and they do that for small devices. We see the change happening right here. Now we have 2 columns, one with image, one with text and buttons. And it stays like this for all device sizes larger. So this is kind of like a nested row and columns inside a bigger row. We also see that our first row wrapping the 2 modules don't have any gutters, so it doesn't have any space in between the 2 columns, which we can see if we do like this. Alright, let's create this. We scroll down, and here after our alert we find the content. First we'll wrap it all in a div tag with the class row and the class no gutters, so we don't have the spacing in between. Then we'll indent this code and close our div tag again. And now we'll create a column with a div tag with the class called 12 and call LG 6, like this. And inside this we'll put our first module. So this class means it will span the full width initially, and for large device sizes it will take up 6 out of 12 columns. We'll do the same with the second module. So we just copy this line, indent the code, and close the column again. Okay, now we'll go inside our first module here and create a new row context using a div tag with the class row. We'll indent content, and then we'll create our first column class, which should wrap around the image. We use the div tag with the class call 12 and call sm6. This means that it will span the full width initially, and for small devices and up, it will take up only 6 out of 12 columns, which is half of the width. We'll copy this and also turn the last part of our module into a column, like so. And now we'll just make the same changes for our second module. So first we'll create a div tag with the class row, like so. Then we'll add a column around our image and another column around the rest of the content. Okay, so let's save and see if this works as expected. We'll just narrow the width of the screen and resize. Now we can see when we reach the small breakpoint here, we see that our text and buttons goes to the right side and the image to the left side, and they form a 2-column grid. And when we increase the width even more, we see that for the large device size right there, that each modules take up their own columns and there is no spacing in between them because the gutters have been removed. We still need to make some adjustments with utilities, which we'll do later on. Now let's focus on the news section. We see that we have these cards that take up the full width initially. Then for medium devices, they take up half of the available width. For large devices, they take up a third of the available width. And for extra large devices, they take up a quarter of the available width. Let's go into our code editor and create this. So we start by wrapping all of our cards in a div tag with the class row. We'll just indent all of this code, like so, and we'll close our div tag again. Then we'll add another div tag with the class call 12 to make it span the full width initially, call md6 to make it span 6 out of 12 columns for medium devices and up, the class call lg4 to make it span 4 out of 12 columns for large devices and up, and finally the class call xl3 to make it span 3 out of 12 columns for extra large devices and up. And now I'll indent this code and close the div tag again. We'll copy this and do the same thing for the 3 other cards as well. This was the second one, this was the third one, and also for the last one, like this. Let's see this in the browser. We'll change tab, narrow the width, and refresh. Here we see that the news items are still stacked, and then when we cross the medium device size here, they take up half of the available width. When we cross the large device sizes, they take up a third of the available width, and when we cross the extra large device size, they take up a quarter of the available width. Great. Now we only need to make some responsive adjustments for our footer. If we resize the window, we can see that initially they stack on top of each other, and then for small device sizes and up, they take up half of the available width each, and then for medium device sizes and up, they take up a quarter of the available width. So let's create this. Back inside of our code editor, we create a row inside of the container inside of our footer. So we create a div tag with the class row. Now we'll indent all this code and close the row again. Be careful not to include our inline list in the bottom, since we don't want this to be part of the responsive grid. Then we create a div tag with the classes call 12 to make it span the full width initially, call sm6 to make it span half of the available width, that is 6 out of 12 columns for small devices and up, and then call md3 to make it span a quarter of the available width, or 3 out of 12 columns for medium devices and up. We'll indent this heading and unordered list and close the div tag again. Now I'll copy this one time and one more time and one final time. So now we can see that all of our 4 columns have been wrapped inside a column tag. Okay, we'll go into our browser, change tab, narrow down the width and resize. We scroll down to the bottom, we can see that the columns appear stacked initially, and then when we hit the small breakpoint right here, they take up half of the available width, and when we hit the medium breakpoint right there, they take up a quarter of the available width. This was all the responsive adjustments we needed to make for this home page.